Welcome to Quality Function Deployment. QFD has been used for 60 years and proven itself as an effective and valuable design tool. It's been used in the fields of automotive, aerospace, software, and healthcare. And now it will help you learn what your users want and need and how you can give them more of it. We'll cover the overall purpose, then the process. First, how to create user attributes, the criteria your user community will use to choose a solution. Then, how to create design parameters, the levers you can push and pull to give the user community what it wants. Then, how to connect design parameters and user attributes by scoring the QFD table. Finally, how to use the QFD table to guide you as you design your product. There's a lot here, so we'll take it step by step. QFD has a soft side and a hard side. Down the left column of the table are the user attributes. We're trying to record the voice of the user community as they tell us what's important to them and how important. This is what they want and how badly they want it. Along the top are the design parameters. Here, we figure out what we have control of and how we should push and pull on these variables. And in the middle, we figure out the connection between what we control and what the user wants. The goal is to give them as much of what they want as possible. And once we figure out which of these variables at the top give our users what they want, we know where to spend our time. And as designers, that gives us what we want, a lot of delighted users. So let's start with user attributes on the left. Again, there are 9 categories to brainstorm separately, with a discard, offer, and shortlist for each. And these are the same categories as the problem definition. We're continuing on with our hydration example, so let's just start brainstorming. User attributes don't describe one particular solution to the problem. They're not how the problem is solved. They are the criteria your user community will use to choose between solutions. They are also the statements your user community will put in a review about why your design is amazing. They're the story they tell about themselves and will tell about your design. And if you know that story up front, you can design it into your product. User attributes typically start with an adjective and are always stated positively, so you know which direction they should go. Let's break that down. Sometimes designers will just use a noun like price, but I don't know if you want price to be high or low. I could assume, but that's going to get me into trouble. Maybe you're designing a luxury product and your user community wants a high price. So put an adjective in front of the noun like low price, so I know what your user community wants. You could also just use an adjective like inexpensive if there's a really descriptive word for what they want. Keep your ideas as concise as possible. Evaluate the ideas by dragging and dropping them into the discard or shortlist. And as you're doing that, stay true to your narrow user community and problem definition. This is another place where you can make your best judgment, then interview users and see if you're correct. It could also be fun to do this with your user community and discuss each idea as it's generated. Expect a lot of push and pull if you do, and modify the ideas to reflect your user's true voice. Brainstorm all the way down to the wildcard category and use your AI co-creator's ideas as a springboard for your ideas. As an aside, remember that you can hover over the QFD stage menu item for the step-by-step process. The next step is to sort and weight user attributes. There are two goals here: to consolidate similar ideas into one overall idea and to weight the ideas by importance. I like to start by sorting the criteria most important to the user community to the top and grouping them together. If I can combine a few ideas into one overall idea, that makes the rest of the process simpler. But if the ideas really are independent, keep them separate. You do not want hundreds of user attributes. That will water down the most important ones. And it will take a lot of time to complete the table. Combine and distill the ideas into the most important overall ideas. Your users won't use 100 criteria to make their decision, and that's what this is about. Then assign weights to each user attribute from 1 to 10. 1 means the user community doesn't really care much. 10 means it is critical. If you leave the weight as 0, it means that user attribute doesn't even enter the calculation. You could leave it there to make it clear to the team it isn't important, or move it to discard. Force yourself to use the full range of weights. If every user attribute is a 10, no user attribute is a 10. And just like the user attributes themselves, weight them as the user community would. Now we can move up and generate design parameters. Design parameters are variables or metrics, hopefully quantifiable, that you as the designer can work to control. Think of these as levers you can push and pull to give your user community more or less of what they want. These can vary from known and standard metrics in the field, like top speed for a car in kilometers or miles per hour, to a made-up metric that makes sense for this user community. When you drag a design parameter into the shortlist, it brings 4 rows with it: ranking, target requirement, units, and goals. You can ignore ranking for now. Spoiler, after you fill in the table, it will tell you the most important design parameters. The target requirement is your best guess of the number right now. Don't hold yourself to this number, but make a guess. Sometimes it's easier to start a conversation with colleagues if you already have an opinion. Next are the units. Your AI will guess some units, but update them if needed. The next line, the goal, is interesting. There are 3 options: minimize, maximize, or optimize. Typically, it gets the direction right, min or max. But sometimes your AI co-creator should put optimize instead of min or max. Optimize is even tough for us humans. If the design parameter is number of color options, you would think that we want to maximize that. But if we had thousands or millions of color options, it would be very difficult for our users to choose. If you've gone to a paint store, you know the anxiety that that can cause. So, really look through these goals and make sure they are correct. It will be very important in the next step. You can also sort these if you want. Maybe put all the times or masses together, whatever works. And like all display cards, you can double-click on design parameters and user attributes to open the detail card and dig in. Now look at all those zeros in the middle of the table. If there's a ton of them, you might want to go back and consolidate or prune your user attributes and design parameters. If you're content, pick a column and score from top to bottom. You might want to move the design parameter you're scoring to the first column to make it easier to score. You might also want to scroll over so you can just see the shortlisted user attributes on the left. For each cell, ask yourself, if I max, min, or optimize this design parameter, does it give the user community more of this user attribute? As you hover over each cell, it will show you the design parameter and the goal. That's very helpful at the bottom of the table. We score from 0 to 10. I'll start by talking about 1 to 10. If moving the design parameter to the goal gives users a lot more of the user attribute, score 10. If moving the design parameter to the goal gives users a little more of the user attribute, score 1. If in between, score in between. Now, 0 is totally different. It can mean two things. The first is that there's no connection. They are totally independent. Changing the design parameter does nothing to the user attribute. But there's a second case. What if moving the design parameter to the goal decreases the user attribute? This is an unfortunate situation. For example, the user wants a van to carry a lot of luggage. Pieces of luggage could be the design parameter. But the user also wants their vehicle to be maneuverable and have low fuel consumption. In these cases, we also score 0. Put another way, we score 0 if moving the design parameter to the goal gives the user less of the user attribute. So scores only show where the user community gets more of the user attribute, the things they want. A lot of the cells might remain zeros, and that's okay. The totals are down at the bottom. The first row of totals is a calculation, the sum of all the weights times all the scores for each design parameter. If there are high scores in rows with high weights, you'll get a high total. The next row, technical difficulty, is for you to fill in. This is your estimation of how difficult it is to achieve the target requirement, from 1 to 3, with 3 meaning very difficult to achieve. The last row is another calculation, the total times the technical difficulty. So what do you do with user attributes? User attributes are criteria. Your user community will buy a solution to their problem that rates highly against these criteria. So your solution has to rate highly against these criteria, especially the ones with high weights. If these criteria perfectly describe your solution, you will delight your users and they will tell their friends. If your solution doesn't, they will keep looking for a solution. And what do you do with design parameters and all the numbers associated with them? First, I would reorganize the design parameters so that they are ranked in order. These highest ranked design parameters are the most important levers you can pull to give your users more of what they want. This is where you should spend your design time. Now look all the way over at the lowest ranked design parameters. Even if these are cool or fascinating, they aren't going to give your users what they want. Don't spend much time here. Now look at the highest total times technical difficulty at the bottom. The design parameters with the highest numbers here will really take effort and time. If you spend your time on these important and difficult design parameters, you will be more likely to give your users what they want and need. And as a designer, that will give you what you want. Lots of people who buy and love your designs. Let's recap. User attributes describe what your user community wants in a solution. They are not the solution itself. They are the criteria they use to choose a solution. The weights from 1 to 10 are the relative importance of each user attribute. Not all criteria can be 10s. Your design has to score highly against these criteria. The design parameters are the variables you can change to give your users more of what they want. Focus on the highly ranked design parameters and aim for the targets for a successful product. Altogether, the QFD stage makes the rest of the decisions in your design process easier. Which solution should I select for this aspect of my design? Likely the one that scores higher against the user attributes. What should I work on today? Likely one of the important design parameters. So, QFD helps us design and manage our project. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.